just going to quickly do a small introduction of who our guest is. So he's a doctor, he's a medical doctor. So that's why I'm really excited, about today's session. The fact that it's a very different one from what we've been doing before. Before now, I've practically brought people who are not so amazed when you read a profile. But today, this is someone who is very, very background noise not interrupting. Permit me to just meet some of us. Also, we are having a fuller house gradually. Okay, so he's a medical doctor by training. Let me use by training now because I don't think he's fully now doing that now. He's really transitional. That's why his journey is going to be very enticing, interesting to us. So Dr. Dolapo Amusan is a Nigerian entrepreneur and product manager in the technology space. He's the co-founder of Zavandi Jewelry, a bespoke online-first jewelry company focused on creating personalized, luxurious pieces as a symbol of love. He's very into the intricacies of product management too. So you will see some of the signs when you check out the website for the company's Zavandi Jewelry. So he's passionate about building African businesses with the right type of structures to help the firms perform optimally outside of the founders, to stay profitable and to grow beyond one generation. So he's a very long-term kind of person, not the typical, let me not say the typical Nigerian, but the typical human being, because most of us as humans, it's very difficult to break out from today the short term. So he's extremely in love with data and insights that he presents. He has various certifications that comes across Microsoft Excel, project management, and Lean Six Sigma methodology. Now, this will not look ordinary until when you place it against the fact that he trained as a medical doctor and was practicing as a medical doctor before he made this transition. So you should feel free to ask him questions about, some of you that have always been thinking, how can I become established in this role? And you feel you don't have the university background, and some of those things we think are barriers. You're going to take a lot of motivation from his story. He teaches, and that's why he's very excited to be here, and he gladly accepted our invite. He has his passion for sharing knowledge. And so I'm not going to waste too much time. In the mail I sent us, I've put his profile there. So rather than taking so much of time reading what I've given you, I'm going to directly just call him off stage and let him take stage and present to us. So Dr. Dolapo, the stage is yours. We are happy to have you in our midst.
Thank you very much, my Oga. I hope everybody knows that Mr. Michael is my Oga, and I was very excited when he had extended the invitation to me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm glad to be able to come here and share the little of my own story. So I just want to confirm again that we can see my screen and hear me clearly, so I can go ahead. All right. Thank you very much. So my name is Dolapo Amusan. I'm a medical doctor, and I'll just like to get started by just taking you through a brief of my journey so far. So I finished from Obafemi Awolowo University. I don't know if there's any great Ife in the house here. You can just give me a shout out in the chat box. And even if you are, I kind of noticed that for us in Obafemi Awolowo University, there are the people that finished who are excited about us, and then there's sometimes the people that did not finish from Ife and kind of beef us a little. That's okay. I'm going to take that. So I finished from Ife 2012 on medicine, practiced clinically up to around 2016 when I joined Hygia HMO, which was really for me the start of my exposure to Excel, to data analysis, and to actually understanding this very, very fast world of spreadsheets. Let me put it that way. So previously, I hadn't really done so much as regards Excel. so up until 2016. And I remember when I was coming for my IJA HMO interview, I'd spoken to a friend who was working in the HMO space. So I'd made the transition from clinical medicine being the doctor who is sitting in the consulting room and sees patients one-on-one, or the doctor who goes to the theater and operates. And I was working at a private hospital back then, and I used to assist surgeries, and also I was consulting patients in the consulting room. And then at the time I was going to join Hija HMO, I knew I was going to make it a major transition, which is from making a transition from a doctor who sees patients one-on-one to a doctor who actually sits in an office and makes decisions and is able to just put data together and do all of that. So it was a major turning point for me. And I remember I'd spoken to a friend who was working at another HMO back then, and he told me, Dolapo, you have to brush up your Excel skills. Like you have to like be very awesome on Excel. And I remember then when he told me, I was like, Excel, is it not Excel? And I don't know if anyone can bear me witness this. There's this thing where previously we used to think that it's not Excel. What is there in Excel? And I'll get to a slide there. Let me just go over to. I'll actually get there very shortly. And so I was like, how bad can it be Excel? Don't we all know Excel? Because back then we used to. Well, I don't know. I think it's something that's still kind of done, where people just say, I'm proficient in Microsoft Office. And really, when you say you're proficient in Microsoft Office, what you're actually saying is, PowerPoint, I can do slides. Word, I can type. Excel, I can add 2 plus 2. Like that was the actual basic skills that we all knew back then, that we used to say proficient in Microsoft Office. So that was the mentality with which I went into that interview at Hija HMO. And I remember that I'd scaled through the first level of the interview, which was going to be my future line manager. I didn't have any problem with that. I got through that. I now had to come back for a second interview, and this time around I had to meet with the HOD of the medical units in Hija back then. And it was, I think, looking back, I think it was a very short interview, because he asked me, he said I should rate myself in Excel over 10. And I said 6. He said, oh, 6. He said, that's good. He asked me, can you do VLOOKUP? I said, no, I don't know what VLOOKUP is. He said, okay. He said, are you comfortable with some pivot tables? I was like, no, I don't know. I'm not. One thing I told myself, that I was not going to go to an interview and lie. Because it's something very easy for you to get figured out. I said no. He asked me another question. I really can't. Till today, I cannot remember what that third question was. But by the time he asked me the third question, and I also said, oh no, I don't. He said, no, okay, you're actually like a 3 in Excel. And that really hits me. I got the job, yes, but between the time when I did that interview with him, I clearly remember his name was Dr. Harrison Okafo. Between the time I did that interview with him and when I was scheduled to resume, I went on YouTube and I ensured that all those things that he said, I mastered them before I was going to start the job, because I knew it was going to be very critical to me surviving on the job and me being the best that I could. And thankfully, within about 3 months when I started on the job, I was green before I got in. But then within 3 months, I was actually one of the major people handling the data analysis for the medical units then. So that was really like that was a rude awakening for me as to what Excel is. So there are people who feel, oh yeah, I know Excel. It's not just rows and columns. And I got exposed to a new level of it back in 2016. I started my business in August 2017, which is on Zavandi Jewelry. I started my MBA at Lagos Business School, which is the timeline between 2019 and 2020 here. And I've just recently launched another business, which and I'm highlighting these two businesses, Avandi Jewelry and also Garage, because these are businesses that have built based off of my knowledge of data analysis and being able to manipulate data. That has been a very important skill for me. So one of the first things I realized in the world of Excel is data analysis is a differentiating skill. And the way I like to see this is in almost any corporate setting, if you can do the job that particular role requires, it's always an addition when you cannot do data analysis on top of it. So as a medical doctor, you are great at seeing clients and patients. However, when you have data analysis, it just gives you a differentiating edge. And I realized that data analysis as a differentiating skill was really very differentiating because it tended to cut across. No matter where you are, data is always being collected. There is no single there's no way where money is being made and data is not being collected. Therefore, there would always be that need to make sense of the data, to understand the history, to understand the present, and predict the future. So I realized, and the moment I realized that, I was like, I'm going to ensure that I put all that I can do to learning and improving myself and sharpening my skills. And I remember my first exposure to Mr. Michael back then was that we had a training in data analysis in the office, and he had come to facilitate, and that was my first exposure to him. So this was me back then. PowerPoint, I can do slides. Word, I can type on. Excel, I can just do 2+2. But today, I can do way more than 2+2. And I in my journey through Excel, I realized that Excel is really the most underrated program. Well, maybe that I know in the Microsoft in the entire suite that Microsoft has to offer us, because really PowerPoint doesn't really do more than give you slides and present and maybe a few animations there. Word really doesn't give you more than you type. There's mail merge. There's some form of page making. There's some form of rudimentary web page stuff that you can do with Word. But I realized that Excel's capabilities really are quite vast, and a lot of people just don't even get to tap into what Excel has to offer. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people fall into this trap where you say, "Oh, I'm proficient in Excel," whereas they've not been able to tap into the actual thing that Excel can make you do. So this was me at some point, but I ensured that I brushed up my skills before I resumed. I think in that 2 weeks before then, I went on YouTube, I did courses, I understood the important. I would say I'm one person who probably hacked my way through the Excel knowledge, because I told myself, which ones are important, which ones do I need to know, which ones am I going to have to apply on this particular role, and I focused on those ones, I deepened them, and I ensured that I was able to deliver what I needed to deliver. Another thing I realized back in Hygeia was that data analysts are the C-suite's best friends. And the reason for this is because there's this flow of how decisions are made within organizations. There's data. There's which could be the sales data, which could be the market data, which could be the operations data from the floor of the firm. Different data just comes in from everywhere, and the first thing is being able to put that data together, being able to clean it up, being able to ensure that it's in a usable form. I remember at some point when I used to get utilization data, and it used to be in PDF form, scanned, like a scanned PDF, an A4 paper where someone has written email addresses and phone numbers. It's useless to you because it's can't. You cannot even use. You need to first convert it into actual data that you can use, and then you clean it up, and then you are now able to make sense of it. So there's data in that raw format. Then there's the insights that you're able to get from the data. What is the data telling you? Which is the insight. And then finally, when you have the insight, you can now take it and say, based on this insight, these are the decisions that we should make. I'd understood this whilst working in the corporate sector, whilst as an employee, that decisions are driven by data. And even as a business owner, by the time I launched my own business, and I knew that I was now the one in charge of the daily running, the monthly decisions, the weekly decisions that we had to make, I realized that those decisions had to be based on data, such that whenever we want to make any move, whenever I want to shut something down or open up something else, we're always asking ourselves, where do we have data to back up this decision? Do we have data that contradicts it? How are we weighing all that in light of what we have before us? So because of this, data, insight, decisions, data analysts, I realized are the C-suite's best friends. And this for me was even a personal experience because so back then I had the head of unit, I had the head of department, and then there was the COO, which my work unit reported to them. And because the COO realized how critical I was to data analysis within the unit chat, asked the HOD, so who's your data person here? And I was highlighted by the HOD. She got way closer to me because she was like, if I need this data, Dolapo is the one that's going to get it with me. I get to sit with her to actually prepare the annual budget. Whenever there was this monthly performance review, man, that meeting was such a big deal every time it was coming up in the month. Whenever the NPR is coming up, I knew I had to put in some extra hours just to ensure that the data was available for her to present to the CEO, to the CEO, to present to the board, for them to review how the entire firm was performing. So, the moment I realized that, I was like, okay, data analysis is really, really a differentiating skill. And once you have it, you get to be friends with the people at the top. However, and one thing I also realized is that being able to analyze the data was not enough. And I'm just sharing this. This is based off of my own personal experience. It wasn't enough that I could do data analysis. It wasn't enough. I realized that there were other skills that were also important. And I'm highlighting this because there are people who feel I can do data analysis. I know once I dig myself into Excel, I'm good. I can get lost in it. I can get the results. However, for true career progress, there are other things that need to be added to it. So I'm not very haven't experienced a little of the audience I'm speaking to. I believe I'm speaking to people who are probably like quite advanced in their data analysis journey. Some people are just getting started, but it's just a good thing to know that being a wonderful data analyst is actually not enough. So I have here ingredients X, ingredients Y that I think have to be added to your data analysis in order for you to say I'm a well-rounded corporate person. My career progress within the firm, outside the firm, is not going to be hampered. I'm going to actually rise quite fast. So the first that I would say ingredient X here would be presentation skills. And the reason why I'm saying this is for presentation, if you can't present your data, the thing is someone will do that on your behalf. So as much as possible, while it is good to be able to extract the insights from that data, it's also important to be able to present it in a way that someone who was not with you when you were doing the analysis would actually understand. And because I get to relate with a lot of people who are technical, I realize that there's this thing about the excitement of the technical work that we do, which can sometimes get in the way of us being able to communicate. Because I mean, we're so engrossed, we're so excited about the technical stuff, the codings that have gone, the processing, the programming that has gone on behind, that sometimes we lack the ability to actually summarize our data and present it in a way that a layman would be able to understand very quickly. So I think that's one ingredient that I found was quite important to ensuring that my career progress within the firm was as fast as I wanted it to. So presentation was one. Presentation being how do you, if you have a large set of data, how do you summarize it in 30 seconds? And someone is going to be like, oh, I get what you're trying to say here. How does someone ask you a question and you are able to present the data in a way that they feel like you listened to their question and you have adequately provided the answer to it. And ingredient Y here is decision making. So there are times, and just because there are times when, even as a data analyst, you've crunched the numbers, you have everything, you have all your docs set in a row, and then maybe if you report to a boss, the boss just asks you, okay, so what do you think this is saying? I think the times I realized that it was actually very important for me to have an answer for my boss in that particular time. It's not enough for you to say, all I do, I'm just the data analyst. I mean, all I just do is I clean up the data and I create tables. And I mean, you guys figure out whatever it is that you want to do with it. Someone who wants to like progress very fast should be able to, after analyzing and getting the insight, be able to say, okay, I think we should go in this direction. And I think those are the extra things that just make that just stand you out within the firm, within the business, and even as a business owner, which I've now become. This has even taken a little more precedence for me. I'm looking for the fastest way to get through my data analysis and get to the point where I can make a decision. I can't afford to get bogged down in the intricacies of the analysis, that I forget that the end goal of this is that I need to arrive at a decision. So decision making is always very important. And I have this quote here from Oleg Ives, which says, not making a decision means foregoing an opportunity. And another thing that's often said is indecision is actually a decision. So two things need to be added to data analysis just to make us more rounded as corporate professionals. Data analysis is there, great. Presentation skills, very important. Decision making, being able to look at the data and say, I think we should go in this direction. It may not be correct. You may not get it perfect the first time, but at least you have a sense of this is where we should go, and you can back it up with some of the data that you have gathered and analyzed. Another thing for me is that data analysis opened the door for me into the tech space. There was a time I was really just like really thinking back because I really have I clearly remember where my ground zero for my Excel skills were. I clearly remember the points at which all I could just do in Excel was add 2 and 2, and that was it. And I know where I am right now, and I've kind of like looked back at the journey and tried to understand it. I realized that Excel, and I'm sure a lot of us would actually agree with me, Excel is like the basics of programming. I remember the day I discovered the if formula. I was like, this if formula is what programming, like if I could distill programming to its basic essence, the if formula is like what programming is about. If this, show this. If not, show this. And when I now discover, oh, so you can even nest the if again. I was like, oh, so I can keep going on and on and on and on and digging into the if, and I come up with an entire formula that can actually show, like I show me like 100 different options based on how I programmed it to. So data analysis for me opened the door into the tech space. But as at the time I started my business, one of the things that we had to do was we had to start very, very lean, in the sense that we needed to use a lot of online tools. We needed to use a lot of software as a service online, because we could not afford all this. We could not afford to go with all these legacy programs and all that. So I realized that my knowledge of Excel had was helping me navigate a lot of all these different tools. So when we started, we launched our website on Shopify, and back then, well, even till now anyway, uploading, when you want to upload your product to Shopify, you can either do it manually, or you can use a CSV. You can put in all the product details and upload it to Shopify. When I realized that, it just made my life like very easy. Navigating the CSV was pretty easy for me. I get it in, arrange everything in all the rows, put them all together, and then I put it up. At some point, we moved our data. Our data was being managed on Airtable, and Airtable. The day I discovered Airtable is I kind of see Airtable as Excel on maybe Excel on it's Airtable is like a spreadsheet and a database. Airtable can't really decide. Airtable is like a product that can't decide if it's a spreadsheet or a database. It's just really a very beautiful mix of the two together, and we manage our data on it. But we're doing our customer relationship management via Pipedrive as at then, our email newsletter on Mailchimp, doing tickets on Jira, managing tasks on Trello. All this. At the back end, I realized they actually still connected to the whole understanding that I had about what a spreadsheet is about: rows and columns, and it just really made it very, very easy for me. And one thing, and that's why I put this important insight here. Almost every service on the internet connects back to a CSV file. You'd realize that almost any service is able to, when you're exporting your data, you can almost always export to CSV. And I also kind of saw my understanding of Excel as a background first to database. So I understood Excel spreadsheets, then I kind of connected it to the database idea, and then I realized that, hey, a lot of all these programs are actually built on a substrate of the database. Whether it's a mail, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's a simple reminder app, you will find out that the database is at the foundation of all these products. And understanding spreadsheets helped me understand the database. And I guess I'm just sharing this in case there's someone here who's just getting started with understanding how exactly the spreadsheets work, and how exactly the databases work. It just really connects, and it was, for me personally, my Excel knowledge really made my journey into tech way easier. And that even brings me to this particular product that I recently discovered. It's Glide on glideapps.com. And what it does, it helps you build an app from a Google Sheet in 5 minutes for free. That's their catchphrase. And it's really been very exciting for me exploring Glide, because Glide really made it very easy. It's something I would encourage us to check out. If you understand spreadsheets, you don't even need to understand database that well, because the major difference, from my own understanding, of between a spreadsheet and a database is that a database is a set of spreadsheets that are well connected, where their relations are well defined, and it's like a spreadsheet that is well connected in a web format. And one thing Glide is going to do, Glide will put you through how to connect any spreadsheet, connect them to each other very well, such that your spreadsheet becomes a database, and then you can build an app directly from it. So I think it's a very exciting one that you might want to check out. All right. So before I go on, can I just confirm that we're hearing me clearly? We're getting amazing stuff from what I'm saying so far.
Yes, I even just posted the Glide apps that you said. I posted it in the chat box so people can also check it out.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks. Yeah. All right. So I just also now go into my idea of how the different buckets of tech skills for the future, and I like to put them in these three different buckets. The first is data, and that's where the not so regular data analyst, data engineer, that's where machine learning comes. That's where database administrators will plug into. Now, this is not, these buckets are not gold standard. This is just my own, how I see all these different roles. So, for example, someone might believe that a database administrator maybe belongs under coding, for example, but this is just how I see there's some different buckets. So there's data, there's design, there's coding, and I think these are three buckets of tech skills that in the nearest future, I mean 2021 and going forward, people who are proficient in at least one of these three will definitely stay in demand. These are skills that I believe are not going anywhere. They would always be needed going forward, whether it's in the data buckets, whether it's in the design buckets or the coding buckets. And you'll definitely find roles that overlap from different buckets. You'll find roles that are at the crossroads of data analysis and design. Others are at the crossroads of design and coding. Others just kind of encompass the three. So I just think it's something to take note of for the future, and also to know that hey, data is not going anywhere. We've gotten to a point in the world where everyone is realizing the importance of data. Google, it's often said that Google, if you're not the product, okay, if you're not paid for the product, rather, you are the product, and that's something we've come to understand about Google. And the reason why Google is Google is because Google knows practically all our data. They know because of the Android platform, they know what you do on your phone. Because of search, they know what you search for. Because of maps, they know where you go. And they have a way of putting all this data together and presenting a platform that they can sell to advertise to people who want to advertise. And therefore, that's where they make their money. So these three buckets are very important tech skills for the future. And so having given that high level of my own story and how I believe data analysis has just helped me into tech, I just want to now share a little bit about rules of clean data. I think that's something that I learned it the hard way, because these are things I didn't know as at the time I was starting out in data analysis, and I had to learn them one by one and realize that, oh, okay, I should avoid doing this, I should avoid doing that. And then by the time it all came together, it made me a better data analyst. So the first here is label everything. Label everything means if you have a column, make sure that there's a title of the column at the top. If you have multiple sheets in the workbook, ensure that all those sheets are labeled appropriately. And like I said, I learned this the hard way, because one day you just need a particular data, and you are like, I am certain I have this information somewhere on my machine, on my computer. and you just cannot find it because you did not label the workbook correctly, or you label the workbook and you did not label the sheet correctly, or you are on the right sheet, but somehow you did not label the particular column that needs this data, and then you find yourself cramping and stressing simply because you didn't label. So labeling everything was one of the most important rules of clean data that I learned. The next one is using one data per column and one table per sheet. There was a time when I used to just want to put everything on one sheet. I realized that that's a terrible idea, especially if you're building a spreadsheet knowing fully well that you want it to be a database sometimes in the future. It's a very smart thing to say, I'm only going to have one table on one sheet. And on that one table, every data type, every data set is going to have its own column. The next is staying as close as possible to the left. As much as possible, let your column A be the very first column rather than, and so I'm a little design oriented, and initially I used to have a problem with the way my data was just right there close to the edge. I just feel like, no, let me leave some space. So I think I used to jump column A and B and just start on C, and I just looked a little more symmetrical. In data analysis, I realized, man, that doesn't work. Just stay as close as possible to the left. Knowing the unique ID, I'll talk about this a little. I'll expatiate a little more on this later on. No hiding. Hiding is something I also used to do back then. Hiding columns and hiding rows. I just realized that it doesn't make sense. Yes, it looks like it's a good idea to hide, but by the time you are advanced in the analysis that you are doing, you suddenly realize that you are looking for a particular column that you hid, or maybe you are trying to drag things across. And I mean, when you're dragging stuff across, Excel doesn't jump. It doesn't, because a row or column is hidden, doesn't mean it won't actually affect it. And then all those things. So I realized this function of hiding columns and rows, I'm going to leave it. No potholes, which is if you have data and if the moment you have a space in the data, by the time you're trying to execute some flash fields, your potholes are going to get in the way. So as much as possible, and then one thing I learned was zero is data. I mean, even if it's empty, put zero there, and it just helps you do your analysis much better. And that beauty is the last step. Now this final one, beauty is the last step, is actually I'll say it's something for me because I'm always very particular about how beautiful my sheets looked. But I quickly realized that is not often the best thing to focus on. Finish analysis, get everything done, and then you can now maybe export to another program or create a dashboard in a different sheet that is feeding from the data, and that way that's the one sheet that you're focusing your beauty on, and then the other ones are just rough work but correct stuff. So about the unique identifier, I'm sure we're all familiar with what the unique identifier is, which is that item on every row that is guaranteed to be different for every single person. It can be a phone number, for example, because you don't expect two people to have the same phone number. Email address is often like the easiest unique identifier that you can find, especially when you have a data that contains emails. The staff ID number, when you're using employee data, you expect that the staff ID is going to be different for every single employee. There's VIN, which is the 17 digits that your cars have. So for unique identifier, name, make and model is not a good idea because there will be plenty of Toyota Camrys. Adding color to it, great Toyota Camry does not make it unique either. Plate number maybe, but the problem with plate number is the conversion changes from country to country. But however, the VIN, which is the 17 digit, is constant throughout the world. IMEI number for I think this is for phones. Yeah, phones have IMEI number. It's constant for all. It's unique to all phones rather. MAC address for physical for devices that connect to the internet. And so talking about unique identifier, I believe So do we all remember this guy? that kept writing WAEC for countless number of times. Adekunle Chiroma Adekunle Chukuma. I remember being very curious as to, I mean, why did they use the name Chiroma Chukuma Adekunle? And thinking about it back then, I realized that, oh, it's actually because this name is a combination of a name from the north, from the west, and from the east. And it was chosen because there is the very low chance, extremely low probability that there will be someone bearing this name. I mean, this person has to have a father who is Hausa, to have the son named Chiroma. Maybe the mother is from the east, and then maybe a grandmother from the west, and being able to have this name. So this was an attempt. This was obviously an attempt at ensuring that they were able to come up with a name that no one alive, no one living, either as at the time or in the future, would actually be able to have. And I think the unique identifier crisis is one that we're currently even having in Nigeria at the moment, with this very recent regulation that everyone has to go and connect your NIN number to your phone. And we can see here how that it's actually a unique identifier crisis. I believe that BVN is probably one of the best numbers that can be used for identification in Nigeria. The problem is that financial inclusion is still a thing. Not everybody is actually banked. There's still the unbanked and the underbanked. So that makes BVN a little difficult. And that's why I believe the government is pushing that the NIN be the unique identifier that every single Nigerian is going to use. I think it's way easier in the US. They have the social security number, which is their own unique identifier, and different countries have their own different conventions. And we can look at all these different numbers and see where the problems with them are. Driver's license, because not everybody would actually register for a driver's license and drive. What happens to the people who are in the rural area who never need to register for a driver's license? International passport. If you're not going out of the country, it is not an absolute necessity. Maybe PVC could be a thing. The problem with PVC is you have to be 18 before you get registered. If you are below 18, you can't get a PVC number. So we can see how the whole unique identifier crisis is rocking Nigeria right now. And the reason why unique identifier is also important is because sometimes whenever you're connecting your data from one spreadsheet to another spreadsheet, the unique identifier is what you use to make that connection. Is what you use to do the relation to what you use to identify your foreign key and all those stuff when you're setting up a database. So that's it for unique identifier. So I just want to just to go through, have a little explanation of this whole clean data thing. So this is an example of some printers that are compatible with some toners, and you can look at the data in column C here. It's not clean because there's a lot of data that has been modeled up into the same column C, whereas all these things can just be easily separated. We can see here. So this is a cleaner version where it has been sifted into the brand, the printer code, the cart code, the color, and then we have the price there. So this just makes it very easy to analyze as a whole. And here's another example. So this is a common one where you have people's names and you have it all together in one single column. And of course, we can just easily use, there are different methods one can use to break this name into different columns. And it's always important to be able to break it because, so I worked in a HMO where often what happens is that the father or the mother, the person who works in a corporate company, is covered by a particular health insurance plan. And everybody that they register in their family are also registered under that same plan. So the person who got registered is the principal, and then the others are dependent. So let's assume the father is the one that works in that particular company. He's the principal, and then the wife, and then let's say the 3 children. And the thing is, they will all have the same surname. So sometimes when I'm trying to do some analysis, I found out that I need to be able to categorize people by their surnames. However, if you have your data in this format, where name and surname and maybe middle name, the 3 names are modeled up together, it makes it very difficult. Excel is not able to identify the different surnames, know which one is surname, know which one is first name, know which one is middle name. I took this knowledge even into whenever let's say when I'm doing some products management stuff. If I'm doing a research, if I'm going to collect data from people, I'm always careful to ensure that I have a different form field for their first name, a different one for their surname, because I realize you want to be able to do that. You don't want at the point of data capture, you want to have those information separate. You don't want to capture it as a bulk, and then you now have to go and do an analysis to separate it. Because here's the thing, this first name in row 2, for example, in B2, it says Mohammed Ayodeji. How do you know whether Mohammed is the first name and Ayodeji is the last name? People have different conventions. Some people write their surname first, write their first name last. Some people do it the other way around. So breaking this can be a little difficult. So it's really better to collect separately, and if you need to, you can combine it by yourself rather than collecting it combined and trying to figure out first name, last name. Sometimes it can be a little difficult. So these are the rules of clean data once more, like I explained earlier. Thank you very much. I hope I've been able to really take us through my story.
It's been an exciting one. I can see that. I don't think we've hit this type of number except when the Microsoft guys were here. And this is like the similar number we hit. So man, people are enjoying your session. Because at the start we were very few, and whenever we start few and suddenly people are getting more, it means people are telling others to join. So it's an exciting one. And just to check the chat box, which people have dropped any questions, I can see people making comments. Me, I have questions, but I want to give precedence to the questions of others. Okay, so if you have questions, please you can unmute and ask. And if it's maybe a comment or whatever you want to say, because.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Dr. Dolapo. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the Data World.
Thank you.
And I want to thank God for the day you decided to dive into data analysis. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Yes. I have a concern. And yes, if I can call it a concern. And this is it. For many data analysts who are here, I'm sure Mr. Michael will bear me with me. Most of them never studied. They never studied data analysis or data management, or not even statistics in school, right? But one way or the other, they just find themselves in that data jungle, and from there, they just find that they just struggle out of the whole thing, and they turn out to now be who they have to be, right? As gurus within the data analysis space. Equally myself, I studied accounting, and along the line, I just found myself within the ERP environment, right? And today I can tell you what I do within that space. I hope you understand. And at some point within that cycle, there is this feeling like I wish I never studied accounting. Probably I should have started long time with my data analysis or studying statistics or doing something that is data related. Now my question is this. Okay, it should not have been a concern. Now this is a question. Is there any particular point in time when you felt or when you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have gone for medical whatever at all. It's been a waste of time. Data analysis is sweet. You get my question. Is there any particular time like that that you feel like, wow, doing medical was just a pure waste of time, right? That's just my question, and I'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So maybe the question, maybe if I can rephrase the question, do I regret, like, why did I even bother spending 6 years in medical school, and if I was going to end up here? The answer is, here's the thing: I didn't even know I was going to end up here. As at the time I was making the decision to get into medical school, as far as I could know, that was the best decision I could make at that point. And I honestly think I'm seeing it as I have a data analysis mindset coupled with a medical background. And I think when I can combine those two things together, it just really makes things better. It gives me exceptional insight to certain things. So I believe data analysis should, I think data analysis should be that thing. And that's why I said it's a differentiating skill. It should be that thing that no matter what you studied, you can add it on top of it. And that's because there's practically no industry that is not gathering data. Every single industry is gathering data. So let it be that whatever you studied, accounting is practically data. It's number data that you're putting together. Finance, you're drawing. Yeah, finance models are a whole different cup of tea in data analysis. So I think the point is, data analysis is a skill that can be added to any single thing that you have learned. So here's the thing: my career right now is not data analysis. At the moment, I think I'll just say I'm a businessman. All right, I'm an entrepreneur, and I've been able to implement data analysis in what I'm currently doing. So I just think you can easily add it to anything you've learned.
Thank you for that. So there's a question from Nancy. I don't know if Nancy would like to ask, go on speaker and talk directly, rather than me just reading your.
All right, that's fine. I'll just ask my question. Okay. Hi, Dr. Dolapo. Thank you so much for the session. Yeah. So my question is, I have to say that I've learned a lot. Thank you so much. But the question is, do you think that say a person like me can decide to become a data analyst on their own? Or would you rather that we actually go learn it as a skill? Do you think it's something that a regular person can pick up, maybe say on YouTube, take several courses, and then over time you just like boom, the data analyst? Or do you think it's something that you would advise and say, go and actually take courses and learn this thing, as in with your experience? What do you think is a better route to go? And maybe because you are quite techie, let me use that word, I wouldn't say you should use your personal experience. How would I put it? But what do you think is best if you are advising someone who is probably just aspiring? Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nancy. Yeah, you think I may not be the perfect example because I'm already like techie up there. But I think what I will say is I wrote 3 things here: mindset, practice, and certification. All right. So I think it starts from the mindset. So one, data analysis is actually, it's honestly, and I hope the MVP can back me up on this. Data analysis is actually easy. It's straightforward. One thing I like about Excel when I picked up Excel is garbage in, garbage out. And you must be able to understand that if I'm getting garbage out, it is because I put garbage in. Don't be the person that says, this computer is doing me, or it's village people, or anything. If you can actually get that part, so the mindset is always like very key. If you believe that this thing is easy, so it's okay, maybe not easy, but at least it is learnable. It is not data analysis is not a skill that people bring from heaven. No, everybody learned it here on earth. Everybody here learned it at some point in life. So I think the mindset is a very important one. So as far as should I learn it on my own? Should I take certification? Yeah, you can start to learn it on your own, because there's also there's a practice level. There's a practice thing to it. There is how proficient are you? It's not enough to sometimes know that this is how a particular function works, but you should have practiced it such that you've tried it in like 100 different scenarios, such that you know how you are proficient in it. Let me just leave it at that. Then there's also the certification aspect. So if you want to become a data analyst, that means like you want to say the career I'm in. Like I said, the career I'm in is not, I'm not in the career of data analyst. No, I simply have applied data analysis, my skills in data analysis, to the things that I do. I'm not a data analyst. People don't bring data to me to make sense of it. No, but I make sense of my own data. You get. So as far as certification is concerned, if you're going to actually get a data analyst role, yes, they might require that you have some certifications. But if you are just being able to say, whatever data I'm generating, I want to be able to make sense of it, even if I'm giving the data to someone else to analyze for me. When that person is bringing it back to me, I know the kind of once you have the data analysis mindset, you know the kind of questions that you're going to be asking the person. You know the kind of requirements that you have, and so I'll say mindset. Get the mindset right. Check. Practice for yourself, and you may need to get certifications if you want to get a job being a data analyst.
Okay. So also Vivian has a question for you. Vivian, do you want to ask him? Do you want to come on the speaker and ask? Hello, Vivian, or should we just read your question?
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so you've already answered the first part of my question, but my second, the second aspect of my question has to do with the exact skills. One is, okay, so if, for example, as a data enthusiast, I decide to start learning on my own first before going for a certification course or something. So what are those skills? What skills am I looking at? What am I supposed to learn exactly before before either going for a certification course or even trying out applying for data analyst job roles and all that?
Okay. I think I get that. I'll hand this over back to Mr. Michael to answer. But before I do, there's something I just want to put into it. I was having a discussion with someone who is a product manager in Sterling Bank just yesterday, and he was telling me how that he transitioned into the product management role from another role. So he was in customer success in the bank, and then he now got moved into product management. And I think we can take a cue from that scenario. And let me just add, for product managers, that is often the route. You usually don't get into the company as a product manager. You usually get in as something else, and then they're like, you get into the product team. And in the same way, data analyst. So data analyst in what industry or in what company? Sometimes it might just be that you actually get into the company via another route, and then you are exhibiting your data skills on the job. Now, let me add this. When I joined Hygia, I did not join Hygia as a data analyst. I joined Hygia as a care coordinator. Care coordinators are medical doctors who are looking at insurance utilization, and I don't know if there are any insurance people here, but care coordinators are the ones that are trying to ensure that the money that the insurance company is spending is not too much. So basically, that was what was on my job description. However, what I enjoyed the most about my role was looking at the data and analyzing it and making sense of it. Such that even as at the time when I was doing my exit interview, when I attended my resignation that I wanted to leave, and HR sat down with me and they were like, "Oh, is there anything that we could have done better?" I actually plainly told them, if you change my job description from care coordinator and remove all the doctor roles, and you tell me I'm now a data analyst, I honestly would have stayed. And let me now add to it. After I left the job, I was called back within a month to come and execute a data project for the company, which I ended up doing for like 3 months on a contract basis, and they paid me way more than the salary that I resigned from. So that was my own experience. So you might sometimes just need to find a way into the industry and then exhibit your data skills once you're in the industry.
So that was a very exciting one. Okay, so Salma also has a question. Do you want to, come up the speaker and ask your question? Do you want us to read it? Maybe I'll just read it. Okay, so I'll read a question, or I don't know if it's his or not. So the question is, at what point in our learning phase can one start applying for jobs?
Okay. At what point of learning data? Well, I think you can from the moment you start. Really, you can actually start learning, as long as you understand what is needed in the role that you're applying in. I for one, there were things I did not know as at the time I was actually getting started, and as long as you're upfront with it, like the slide I put, don't lie. If you lie on your resume and you get on your first day they put the task in front of you and you realize that, hey, I actually can't do this. It's important to be upfront about that. Some jobs will definitely give you the room to say you are able to learn as you go. But then I think from the moment you start learning, you can actually start applying and be willing to put in the work in the beyond office hours, all right, the nights, the weekends, to ensure that you keep sharpening your skills. I believe that answers for Salma.
Okay, so before we move on, I think Michael missed out with the skills. There's out skills to learn.
Okay. I'll hand over to.
Yeah, this is Vivian. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Michael.
Okay, you want me to say something too about it? Oh, okay, I should say something about skills to learn.
Exactly. Yes.
Because I'm a trainer, when they say if you call a carpenter who has a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I'm a trainer, so I'll obviously be saying, come for my training. But the truth is, if I look at feedback, if I look at people in the industry, people who have gotten jobs, people outside of my sphere of training, I would say exactly what Doctor has said. There are a lot of people who, how they got into the whole data space was they are fled. There was the guy who we invited last week, the Ghanaian guy. People enjoyed the session. For him, he was working in a role that was more like marketing. He didn't enjoy it, but it was an industry he loved, investment banking. But he was doing more customer-facing activities. Whereas what he really wants, what he feels is going to enjoy much more, is doing the analysis, staying back at the office, designing reports and analysis and products and all, but analysis. So what he did was, while still on that job where he's doing more of what he does not like, but in an industry he likes, he started building reports, started doing things like for showcase. So not that someone commissioned him to do them, but he was doing them as a kind of a showcase, post them on his LinkedIn. He started creating problem for himself, let me use that word, and he started creating analysis. And so when opportunity, and he was open for opportunity. So when he wrote to someone on his LinkedIn that, he really wants to do his kind of job, he wants to be in his team, that what they are doing, strategy and analysis in a bank, that's what he really enjoys doing, and that's what he wants. And the person, kind of like, let's give him a chance, let's even send your CV over. And the CV looked interesting. He said, he put in all those skills that he was not applying where he's working, but he has built up over, night classes, things, projects he did for himself, not that a customer or a company or a client or a company, asked him to do. And, he put those skills to there. And when it came to the point of interview, and they said they want to get a dashboard, like they need a dashboard in their team, that the reports they do, they want to have a proper dashboard that preferably automated, and that can he do a dashboard? And he said what he did was he just punched on his LinkedIn, on his phone, opened his LinkedIn profile, showed them a dashboard. And they were like, you did this? And he said, yes. And they said they are already giving KPMG, talking with KPMG to do something like this. Will cost thousands of, CDs, which maybe would millions of naira. Their money has gone up. So that took him easy, effortlessly to stage 2. Stage 2, HR was like, okay, are you good in this? Are you doing it? And it was like, again, he brought out his profile and he showed them what he has done. So the key thing I want to bring out is that for him, he created a portfolio. And for most of us who freelance, like at the start of my career, at the start of my consulting career, most of the jobs I get are freelance jobs. Freelance jobs are where maybe you go on a freelance site and you say these are the things you have skills in, and then you become visible to some people, and then you are monitoring jobs people post to see which one you should apply to. And all the time, what people want to see is what you have done. So even when you want a job and you've not done that job before, they're in problem or you won't get it. So you have to go and create a job for yourself. So sometimes what I used to do then is some people are generous, or some people have this mindset of, they will even put their data there. So they will say, this is the data that I have issue with. And they can only hire one person. But then because they put the data there, what do? I solve the problem and email it to them and say, I've done it, this is how much I'm charging. Some maybe they'll use it and not get back to me. I don't know. But you know what? I have a portfolio. That is now part of my portfolio, right? Some other time, I look around me, what are problems people have, friends, things I notice from, like, we have data around us, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, CBN. There are many free data that you can create stuff around. So I'm already taking over from our presenter. But then something of what I'm trying to say is that apart from if I go away from do training, the thing is, when you do something, whether it's free, whether it's for showcase, it normally opens doors. So you don't want to wait until someone employs you first or someone commissions you to do something. Do it. Do it for friends. Do it for create a problem. Have a showcase. Have something to showcase. And usually in Nigeria, that gets job faster than you even disturbing people with your CV. I'm serious about that. I've gotten many jobs. I've seen people get jobs just because they can show that they have done this. Sometimes jobs that they didn't even apply for, somebody saw what they have done somewhere else and says, you know what, this is the person we need to contact, not the people sending those CVs. Okay, so back to you, sir. Sorry. Hope Vivian, I gave some perspective to, I don't know if you
Yes, thank you. You did justice to that. Thank you so much.
I have another question for you. Maybe Mr. Dolapo wants to see opportunities in the HMO space. I hope you charge him if he's using it as a resource person for his own insights. So, Mr. D, do you want to ask him your questions? I can sense that you're trying to find out.
Thank you.
Fixed.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question is around your business environment, talking about the medical industry. Now, when you go to government hospitals, talking of general hospitals, talking of federal medical centers and the like, there is a whole lot of mess around how patient data is being managed, right? Everything is manual, even the manual way. When there's any emergency, there's nothing like emergency in those areas, right? In the sense that you have to go queue for to get a card, right? You have to, even if you are, a known, if I can use that word, patient, and you come back for a checkup or a follow-up or something, you still have to go to the register wherever the papers are being kept to queue. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So my question around this is, how have you been able to apply? I wouldn't know if you have worked within any of these environments, public environment, but with your idea experience, how have you been able to apply your data analysis skills, within that industry in respect of hospital management systems, right? I could see the other time that you showcased MailChimp, right? And there are several things one can use MailChimp for, right? Probably scheduling, patients for reappointment and stuff like that. I just wanted to share your experience with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So first, let me highlight that I kind of stopped practicing practicing clinically 2015, and since then I've not really been in the medical space, and that's a personal decision because I realized my skills and my passions were actually outside of medicine, if I can put it that way. But you see, to an extent, I can speak to Nigeria's health problems. So as far as the public hospitals are concerned, Nigeria's problem is beyond the data. Is beyond the data analysis problem. All right. I've worked in a number of private health insurance, also hospitals, and I know how serious these private firms are about data. So there is actually a lot of progress with in the private sector, in the private health sector, because the scenario I've given about they can't find your card. I know for a fact that that's strictly limited to the government, to the public space. To get data analysis and all these ideas and all these products that we have, to get them to work in the public space, there needs to be what we call political will. So political will is the problem that we have with the public sector, and I think it frustrates a lot of professionals. And this is not even just medicine; this is everywhere in Nigeria, because you know that the answers to these problems are actually very simple stuff. It's very simple. For example, I remember someone. So let me digress a little. This issue of everybody take your name, go and queue at your service provider and connect your name to your NIN to your phone number. I have a feeling like the government probably had an idea. I really don't know what goes on in those decision making rooms. Well, and I will not even try to figure it out. But the thing is, someone actually said that all that was probably needed was for someone to just do a very simple project and harmonize all this data together, because the banks have our data, the network providers have our data, find a way to merge all these things together. And yes, not everybody will be captured, but to an extent, a large percentage of people would not have even needed to do anything at all. And then maybe you now notify the people who actually have missing issues, and all that. So sometimes, as far as the public sector is concerned, political will is the problem there. But for the private sector, a lot of facilities that I know actually are very particular about data. They're very so. For example, a health management system. There are a lot of Nigerian developed health management systems, not even the ones that come from India or the ones that come from that are open source or software as a service from the US or from Europe. They're actually Nigerian developed ones here. So I know that scheduling drug prescriptions. Those are things that are actually being done. So if you could, if you know a number of private health institutions, you definitely you realize that they use all this. Sometimes it's like very background, such that you may not maybe the client may actually not see everything that goes on behind. But I know that they actually do they do a lot of data. So in the private sector, there is progress there. I believe that a point is coming where that progress is actually big enough that it starts peeling, and maybe at some point where we get the correct political will, we get a minister of education who comes out with the mandate that I want all government hospitals to be connected via an internet or intranet network. I want all health records to be on one database. By the time that political will comes, the progress that we have been making in the private sector will definitely be able to move over to the public sector.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think we'll just take one more question, then two things that we always ask our audience, our guests to do, then we'll let you do that. So there's a question from Ademola Temilola. Ademola, do you want to ask him directly, or should I just read your question? One, two. Okay, maybe I'll read his question then.
Okay. Okay, please read the question.
Why not? Better you ask. Always read.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, my question is that currently I actually have taken some courses at Mr. Michael's study center. But at present, I'm an intermediate user of Excel. You discuss skills for the futures, where you mentioned data analysis, coding, and I think designing. So, but my question now is, what advice now, how to steps I need to take in order for me to at least bring myself up in this area?
Okay, I got that. So thank you very much, Mr. Demola.
Analysis and the...
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. I think I got your question. So in addition to what Mr. Michael had even mentioned earlier, being able to doing freelance projects, because the things that you learn by yourself, possibly under less pressure and based on your own drive, or you say, I want to implement a project in Power BI, for example, or I want to implement a project in R or Python and actually get something done. I think to an extent it probably takes us a longer way. The other thing I would mention is it's important to be strategic. All right. So I mentioned those three buckets. There's data, there's design, there's coding. It may not be a good idea to say I want to know everything, because it's actually very, very wide array. But you can just pick one and be like, I'm going to pick this, and I'm going to be strategic over the next 1 year. I'm going to commit time. So strategy is one thing, time is another. We must always give ourselves time to learn stuff. We must give ourselves. I think sometimes because of the way we humans, we sometimes want everything like now. And it just doesn't work. There is still that process of time that needs to be attached to it. So you want to tell yourself over the next 1 year, first pick a particular bucket, pick a particular skill, pick a particular role. For example, I want to learn machine learning, for example. And then you now start from the basics and you start working it up. I'm sure there are a lot of courses available for that, and then you just give yourself time, and then you can grow into it. That's honestly the best idea best advice rather that I know that I can give as regards developing your skills and becoming highly proficient.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So as we are wrapping up, we are taking beyond the time that we gave you. But I noticed that people were beginning to ask questions, and said it would be good to cut them off. So I hope you have maybe 5 more minutes as we wrap up. So there are usually two things that I just left for you to do for us. One is a kind of question. The other one is our own way of trying to pay you back for what you've done. So the first one is, if you look at your career, that's why I said I'm not surprised by the number of people we've seen in this session, because different from any other kind of session we've had. So there's a very unique aspect to your own journey. And so I just wanted to look back and say, well, if you pick one thing, what is one thing that kind of stands out in this your career so far? What has stood out in shaping who you are now? It could be an activity, it could be someone you met, it could be, it could be even something that was not at that time a positive thing, or something that, every time you remember it, there's an emotional thing to it for you, like it really stands out among all the experiences you've had. What will that thing be?
Okay, so I think I've even already mentioned it, and I'll just say it again. I think it was that interview I had with Dr. Kafo that day, like, because he asked me point blank, rate yourself. I said 6/10 because I was confident. He asked me 3 questions. I bombed all of them, and he said no, you're like a 3. And I think there's just this thing of how can someone maybe it's just self-confident. How can someone say I'm a 3/10 in Excel? No, I will go and learn. I'll go and learn that thing. I think to an extent I probably have a little of that competitive streak and wanting to at least know that I'm doing things to the best of my ability, because I actually prepared for that interview, right? So as far as I was concerned, I had learned the things, and somehow nobody told me that VLOOKUP and pivot table were important stuff. And honestly, when I got to the job, I realized those were actually very critical functions that I used a lot in my job. So I think that particular encounter, that interview session, thankfully I got the job, but it spurred something in me to commit myself to self-development.
So we've come to the last part, which sadly we do not have what to give you as an honorarium or a fee, but at least we can try to help people be aware of your businesses. So I know you're an entrepreneur, so definitely there will be things that some of us can be customers to you on. So we would like you to tell us about, what it is we can patronize you for. Maybe for the jury part, it might be my wife. So anything I hear, the part that won't cost me a ham and a leg, I'll tell her about those ones. But generally anything, and if you want people to connect, anything you want to share with the audience as regards to them connecting to you, getting to use your services, being aware of your product. If you even want to share your screen, or you want me to go on share my own and go to a particular website to show them, feel free to. At least that's the only thing we can give you back.
All right. Okay. So I think I'd kind of talked about it in my earlier slide. So there's this. I'm trying to go back to the start of my slide so that I can just highlight that. Okay. Just give me a second. Okay, so I talked about Garage, which is like the latest of my projects, and it's something very, very dear to me, and it's more dear to me because the only reason why Garage is existing is even because there was a data analysis background that I was able to bring to the business. So basically, Garage is a platform for vehicle owners to manage their vehicle data. We did a beta launch a few weeks back, and I think I can just invite everyone to also be a part of it. Use it, see if it solves a problem for you, and then you can always give us feedback. So I think what I'll be asking for is that as many people here on the call go on. So it's Garage. So the website is garage.ng. Garage, so just as it's spelled, garage.ng, and we can go on it. I want us to register, to try it out, check the product out, and please give us feedback as to things that we can use to improve the platform. It's free. It's not there's nothing to pay for at the moment, but I believe that your feedback would be highly appreciated. Thank you very much.
So I'm trying to share the link
Okay.
So, all right. So I think posted it. I'm just trying to grab the link that will come up as a URL. So I think I need to TPS or something. So please, I've put the link in the chat box. I'm just trying to put the one that will pop up as a clickable link for us. Help us, yes, this. So help go through it, sign up. I'm on it. I'm going to put my email address and I'm going to sign up. So please sign up and help check it out. Give him any feedback that you think will be useful. So thank you once again, Doctor. And I hope now when we call you doctor, it doesn't we still take you back to the medical side of your background.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, once a doctor, he's a doctor.
Wow. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Section with you, and I'm sure people have gotten value. I noticed the numbers stayed steady even towards the end, like even when we go past the usual hour. So I'm sure people got a lot of value, and the questions even showed it too. So thank you very, very much, and Merry Christmas to you. And we hope that as you go into the new year, all your businesses and all, especially garage, everything will take on, super growth too. And thank you for honoring us with your presence and
thank you for the invites.
Very good. Thank you very, very much. So everybody, thank you for joining, and see you again next week, next year. All right, so bye.